Okay, so let's talk about the story of a boy who was, believe it or not, a total legend before he could even walk or talk. But here's the crazy part. He had absolutely no clue.
So, you might think our story starts with this famous kid, right? Nope. It actually kicks off with his relatives, the Dursleys. And let me tell you, this family's whole thing, their entire reason for being, was to be perfectly normal. I mean, these are the last people you'd ever peg for getting mixed up in anything weird or mysterious. But of course, they had a secret, a huge one, and they were terrified of anyone finding out about it, especially about Mrs. Dursley's sister, a certain Mrs. Potter. And this contrast, it's everything. You've got the Dursleys, who treasured being ordinary more than anything. I mean, they'd literally shudder at the sight of something out of the ordinary. It wasn't just a preference, it was a deep-seated fear of anything that didn't fit into their tidy, predictable world. And then you had the Potters. And to put it in the Dursleys' own words, they were about as un-Dursley-ish as it was possible to be. Couldn't be more different. All right, so fast forward 10 years. An entire decade goes by. The Potters, well, they're gone. And their son, Harry, ends up with the Dursleys. His whole life with them, it's run by this one, single, miserable rule. A rule that's pretty much the foundation of his quiet and, frankly, pretty awful existence.
Yeah, for 10 long years, this has been his reality. Think about that. His bedroom, it's a cupboard under the stairs, complete with spiders. And his clothes, they're all hand-me-downs from his cousin Dudley, who is way, way bigger than him. So yeah, not great. But here's where it gets weird. Strange stuff just happens around Harry. Things he has zero control over and things the Dursleys just pretend aren't happening. Like his aunt shaves his head, and the next morning, his hair is completely grown back. Or this hideous sweater she tries to make him wear. It shrinks down to the size of a doll's outfit right before his eyes. Then there's the time he somehow ends up on the school roof. And maybe the wildest one yet, he's at the zoo and poof, the glass on a snake enclosure just vanishes. Then, right before he turns 11, something happens that just shouldn't be possible. A letter shows up. And it's not for the Dursleys, it's for him. And the address, it's so specific, it's kind of creepy. It's proof that whoever sent this thing knows exactly who he is. And they even know he sleeps in a cupboard. So Uncle Vernon completely freaks out. He snatches the first letter and burns it. But guess what? Another one shows up the next day. This time, it's addressed to the smallest bedroom. His efforts to stop them just get crazier and crazier. He boards up the mail slot, but then they get pushed under the door. He drags the whole family out of the house, but the letters find them. What started as one letter turns into a dozen, then 2 dozen, until finally, and you gotta picture this, hundreds of them are literally shooting out of the fireplace like bullets. This all leads to this final, desperate act of escape. The Dursleys pack up and run. They end up in this awful, rundown shack, on a rock, in the middle of the sea during a storm. Talk about dramatic. And it's right there, as the clock hits midnight and the storm is howling, that Harry Potter officially turns 11. But you can't outrun this. With a massive boom, the entire door is smashed right off its hinges. Standing there is this absolute giant of a man. And what's the first thing he does? He just puts the door back in place and asks if anyone can make him a cup of tea. Classic. We find out his name is Rubeus Hagrid, and after all this time, he's finally found Harry. Now Hagrid is just floored. He cannot believe that Harry knows nothing. Like zero. Not about his parents, not about their world, and not about who he is. So after getting pretty angry with the Dursleys, Hagrid finally turns to Harry and just lays it all out, the truth they've been hiding for a decade. And it's so massive, so completely world-shattering, that all Harry can manage to say is 2 little words. And this right here, this is the moment, the turning point of his entire life. And it all comes down to 4 simple words that change everything. Everything Harry thought he knew about who he was, wrong. Everything the Dursleys ever told him, a total lie. So while Harry's brain is basically melting, Hagrid starts to fill in the blanks. He explains that there's this whole other world, a magical one, hidden right alongside the one we know. And he introduces Harry to a key piece of jargon, you could say, the word that wizards use for regular, non-magic folks, like the Dursleys. And this is where you really see how deep the lies went. The story Harry always heard was that his parents died in a car crash. A simple, sad, and very muggle kind of accident. But Hagrid gives him the real story.
the truth. Lily and James Potter weren't just anybody. They were a famous witch and wizard. And they didn't die in an accident. They were murdered. So Hagrid tells him what really happened that night, and it's terrifying. There was this dark wizard, right? A guy so feared that most people are still too scared to even say his name, Voldemort. He showed up at their house, he killed James, then he killed Lily, but then, and this is the part nobody understands, when he tried to use his killing curse on baby Harry, it just didn't work. It actually backfired, completely wrecking Voldemort's power and leaving Harry with just one thing, that famous lightning bolt scar on his forehead. But you have to put yourself in Harry's shoes. After an entire life of being treated like he's less than nothing, of living in a cupboard, he just can't wrap his head around it. How could he, the kid whose cousin uses him as a punching bag and whose aunt and uncle treat him like dirt, how could he possibly be special, let alone a wizard who survived something that no one else ever has? And really, that's the question that changes everything, isn't it? It's the huge mystery that's going to define not just his past, but his entire future. It's the perfect setup for this incredible journey into a world he never dreamed of. A world where, finally, he's going to find answers, find friends, and find a kind of courage he never ever knew he had.